Hello everyone, I'm Rabbi Boris from Congregation Dor Shemed, and I'm so happy to be with you today as we bake matzah for Passover, which is coming up in a few days. I am happy to be joined by my wonderful kids today who are going to be helping me. This is
Elijah, Ezra.
And today I do want to let you know that the way that we're going to bake matzah is not following the strictest standards of halakha, of Jewish law. Under the circumstances, being stuck at home, doing this in a pandemic, and the fact that I don't have an industrial kitchen. We're doing this in the best way possible with all the ingredients and under the circumstances we have. So it's very important if you're doing this and baking these matzah for Passover that you make sure to ask your rabbi if it's okay to bake matzah this way.
Rabbi, can I make matzah this way?
You sure can, son. So today, the first thing to know is you need to start with a very clean kitchen. As much as possible, of course, especially if you're preparing for Passover, clean away all the chametz, the crumbs, and do your best job to make a clean kitchen ready for baking matzah. The oven needs to be as hot as possible. My oven goes to 550 degrees, I think it's in Fahrenheit. So make sure your oven is set before you start the process at the highest temperature possible. Matzah, like everything for Passover, needs to be made in a way that nothing, as much as possible, is able to rise or ferment. So the flours that are not allowed on matzah, on the Passover, that can't be fermented, are barley, spelt, wheat, oats, and rye. Today we are using regular flour, although under the most strict standards you should be using shmura flour. We're using wheat flour. Under the strictest standards you should use only shmura flour, which has been washed either from the moment of harvest or as near as possible until it is ground up into flour. But today we're using just good old-fashioned flour, as much as possible that has stayed dry, away from all moisture before we start baking. So as you can see, the flour I made already, it's in a bowl. Measuring is important when baking matzah, but it's not as important as the speed that you complete the process. So what we're going to do, with the flour here in another bowl waiting, the water is also waiting for us in a measuring cup, we're going to start a timer, and as quickly as possible we're going to pour the water into the flour. We're going to knead very quickly, press it out, roll it out on a cutting board or on the table. It's going to be made into little matzahs, perforated with forks on both sides to make sure that no bubbles, or as few bubbles as possible, are able to pop up from that matzah. Put in a very hot oven, again 550 degrees Fahrenheit, and then if all works, as I hope it will, everything will be done in 18 minutes. Now officially, water, if you happen to have access to a spring or rainwater, the water, if you can get it, should be spring water, fresh from the natural environment. If all you have, like we do, is tap water or filtered water, you can take the water and make sure to leave it out for a little bit so it's room temperature. If it's too hot, it could add to the fermentation and the rising of the dough. First step, of course, in these days, before anything starts, is to wash your hands. So let's all wash our hands. Okay, here goes Elijah, and he's going to demonstrate how to wash his hands. So first he puts the soap down. Very good. And then what happens next?
I rub it for 20 seconds between my fingers and my fingernails. Everywhere. 20 seconds.
You can sing a song. Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila. That's about 20 seconds. Then it's Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila. Good. So now that everyone has washed their hands, we are ready to go. So again, making matzah should all happen within 18 minutes from the moment that the water touches the flour until it's out of the oven, or some would say until it goes in the oven. But we're going to try our best today and do everything in 18 minutes and have our fresh, warm matzah in 18 minutes or less. So the first thing to do is to start this timer. And once that timer starts, you have to work very fast. What we're going to do is have, first, they're going to put 4 cups, and again, measurement's not as important, it's the texture of the dough that matters. 4 cups of the flour into the bowl, and then slowly pour in the water and mix it up. So, we're going to use a small spoon, because we're not making that much. And again, this should take no more than 18 minutes. So are you guys ready?
Yes!
Okay, so we have to move fast, and the oven is very hot. In fact, it's heating up the whole kitchen. And here we go.
Go, go,
18
go.
minutes, okay. So put 4 cups of flour. Doesn't have to be perfect. Into the bowl. We have 1, 2, uh-oh,
3,
3, and good enough.
I'm just going to scoop some more.
Oh, we're making a mess. That's fine. Okay, good enough. Now, let's see. Let's get a slightly bigger spoon here. Oh, there's a big spoon. Okay, you're going to stir with me, and Ezra is going to pour the water in slowly, slowly. Start pouring.
So,
Okay, can you help me stir? That's good. Stop, stop, stop. Let's mix it up a bit. Now the key is you have to always keep with matzah, keep stirring. You don't let the matzah rest, okay? Help me stir. Can you stir a little bit? Pour in a little more water. So the matzah should never sit. Stop. Never should sit because then it might rise. So you want to keep it moving, keep stirring it as much as possible. Still needs a little more. Go, go. Oh, you want to stir the spoon? Okay, it's looking good. Now you don't want to make it, ideally you don't want to brush the dough with, okay, that might be enough, a little more. You don't want to brush the dough with extra flour like you would do if you were baking something else. So that should be good. Okay, I think let's not put any more. Let's see if that's good. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. Just enough. So you're not, obviously there's no yeast. So if you don't need to knead it too much. In fact, it shouldn't be more than 30 to 60 seconds. If you're kneading it for more than a minute, then you've probably done too much. Okay, so the next step, once this is done, make a nice ball that is just sticky enough. Needs a little more flour. And then we're going to bring it over to the board where it's going to be rolled out. Okay. Okay, ready? Here we go. Okay. So now we have this. We're not going to make these too big. I'm going to separate these into, I think I need a little bit more flour. You don't want it to stick to the, okay. And can you keep turning it, moving it like this? You don't want to let them, just go like this with the, there you go. Can you do this one? Just keep it moving. And just a little bit to make sure it doesn't stick. And again, everyone does this a little differently. Okay, now is where it gets tricky. Okay, so let's do, Ezra, you do yours first. Let's make sure, oh my, a little too sticky. So we are going to put a little flour down on the cutting board, but not too much, just to make sure it doesn't stick. And we're going to take one of the pieces of dough. Ezra, you want to start us off?
okay.
And you're going to roll it out as thin as you possibly can. I'll let you start and then I'll do it. And one thing to notice, if you let it go too much, okay, I'll finish this off. If you knead it too much, it gets harder to flatten out. And you do not want it to be hard to flatten out because you want this as thin as possible. And Nechama, are you ready? In just a second, you are going to poke matzah with as many little fork holes as you possibly can, because when this goes in the oven, you want to make sure as much as possible there are no bubbles. Because of course a bubble, it's like a bubble is the places in the dough where it's starting to rise. Give us a little bit more. I'll check the time too. We might only be able to make 2 of these. Okay. Okay, Nechama, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, and each of you, everyone poke as many as you can. Ready, go. Push all the way into the, so it should go all the way through the matzah.
Make sure not to
Keep
stab someone else.
Yeah. Get the dough, not the hands. Oh, I see some empty spots. Keep going. Okay, looking good, looking good. And of course, we could do a little more, but wait, now move. I don't want to get my hand stabbed there. And turn it over, do it again. Keep going. going to start on our next one. Okay, this one is going to be here. Now in a matzah factory, they would put it on a wooden pole so that it would never touch anything else but the air. Okay, ready? Go, Elijah. We're going to try to do at least one more. Yeah, it sticks. Up. Okay, I think I'm going to finish this off. It's a lot of work.
Not a lot of fun. Trying to keep it from sticking to the roller.
And if you are making matzah and you have more time, it's not Passover and you can spend more than 18 minutes, some people actually like to use a pasta maker, which of course is a very easy way to make sure that the matzah is very flat and very thin. But it's much harder to do that in 18 minutes or less. Again, some people say that you should not sprinkle flour on the dough as you're doing this, but I find it's very difficult to make it not stick. Okay, I think that's almost thin. Then one way to know that it's just about right is if you hold it up to the light, you can kind of see through it. So that's looking good. Okay, are you ready to poke?
Yes!
Ezra, where'd you go? Okay, are you ready? And poke. Poke. Make sure you get even the edges. Get the edges too. Okay, ready? Take the forks away. And that's a very important part. You do not turn it over while the forks are going. And go. Get the edges, get the edges. Okay, perfect. So now comes the part where we see if it all worked out. So of course we could make a few more. It's pretty thin and there's plenty of holes. So again, the holes are going to make sure that bubbles do not pop up as we bake it. Now what I've done in the oven is the pan. We want to make sure that everything is as hot as possible. So the pan is warmed up and ready to go. I put aluminum foil on, but that's not necessary. So we are going to take our first matzah and we're going to put it on the pan. And as quickly as we can, we're going to put it in the oven. Oh, and they're sticking a little. They're close to each other. We'll play around a bit. Ouch. Okay, this one goes in, and then I'll check the clock, see how long it should go in. We have 8 minutes and 20 seconds left. So we'll come back in a few minutes, and we'll take it out of the oven and see how it looks. So it's been about 5 minutes, and this very hot oven has hopefully baked our matzah, so I'm going to take it out. And there we have it, our beautiful and wonderfully imperfect matzah, hot out of the oven. As you can see, there are little pieces on the edges where it might have just come up a little bit, but it's nice and brown, and once we let it cool, it will be ready to eat. So one of the things to remember, especially this year for Passover, I know all of us are going to be having a bit of a different Seder than we're used to. We're stuck at home. Some of us may be missing our family, our friends, and our community that we usually gather with for our Passover Seders. But one of the things we can do, as we should do every year, is to make sure to make this year special, make this Passover Seder something unique, and if nothing else, a story that we will tell for years to come. So one of the ways you can make it special is by this year making your own matzah. So I hope you enjoyed making matzah with me and my family, and Chag Sameach, and I hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.